Welcome to Biblio Cultist, where I review books that I find interesting in the topics of religion, philosophy, literature, and history. Today's video should be fairly short because the book I am discussing is The Radis by Yaqub Al-Kindi, and also known as A Theory of the Magical Art. And it's a fairly short book, therefore I want to present a few elements of the book so that you get motivated to read it. Before we begin, remember to subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, share the video, like the video, and comment on the video if you have something to say. I usually pay attention to the comments, see if there's anything people want to discuss. So this edition of The Radis by Yaqub Al-Kindi is from Black Letter Press. It's a second edition from 2022. I love, again, Black Letter Press's editions. They tend to be very beautiful, and at the same time, they're not expensive. So I suggest that people check this out. But again, if you can find an edition that is a paperback and is cheaper, as long as you can read the content, like I always say, that's what matters. So first of all, Yaqub Al-Kindi has a longer name, but I like reducing it there. So Al-Kindi is considered one of the founders of the Library of Baghdad, which again is a very famous library on the level of the Library of Alexandria, for example, which was also destroyed, unfortunately. The edition that we have now is not from the original. We don't have a copy of the original. It may appear in the future, may be found, but so far we only have Latin translations. So that component should be considered, because reading a Latin translation will never be the same as reading an original. So we have to keep that caveat in there. The basic notion, the basic gist of the work, which indicates it's about a universal radius, the impact of light in the universe. And the primary conception is as above, so below, as many occultists are very familiar with. But one of the downsides of that viewpoint, especially in the Middle Ages, and it reminds me of the book by Cornelius Agrippa, it is highly superstitious. Because of this view that everything is interconnected, there seems to be also a kind of silly conception that if you take a chicken and drink its blood, then anything related to a chicken, like wings and feathers, and the blood, when it's consumed, it will give you characteristics of a chicken, for example. And there's many examples of kind of things like that that are pretty funny sometimes, because they seem to take this notion as above, so below to such an extreme degree that it becomes highly superstitious. And they're still fun to read because, like I say, I never try to judge a book by the standards of today, but by the standards of the time. But it's still difficult to get in the mindset of someone who believed that many of these behaviors would actually give you a result. The main gist of the book is macrocosmos and microcosmos conception, that is a lot closer to kind of pagan oriental conceptions of existence, and not so much with Abrahamic conceptions of existence. For example, he constantly talks about how every single action has a reaction that is universal, even if it's a small action, because we are a microcosm of the macrocosm. We are a small universe, and things that happen within us are also happening outside of us. But that conflicts with the Islamic conception that we are creatures and not creators, and that we're not emanations of the divine, but that we are a phenomena that is engendered directly by the divine. Whereas the Eastern conceptions, like the conceptions in the Vedic world and in the Tao And in Buddhism, which all kind of stem from the same source, I would argue, the divine conception and every living organism, they're all connected eternally, so that the soul is not a creature, it's simply an emanation of the divine. And everything that surrounds us has that characteristic. So in that viewpoint, then Al-Kindi's conception of the macro and the microcosm makes sense. But if we are creatures, we are not interconnected with creation, because we are something made for a purpose, but we are not made of the same stuff as God. And I think this happens a lot with most philosophers in that era of Baghdad, in which a lot of, for example, traditional Muslims would argue that they're so deeply influenced by Greek philosophy that they have basically departed from Islam. I've heard this argument before. And I would tend to agree in a lot of ways that there is quite a departure, even in small things, because a lot of people don't realize that if you change one basic conception, like that idea, are we creatures or are we emanations of the divine? Do we emanate from the divine or are we creatures? That small philosophical distinction creates a complete change in the theory, practice, and the very nature of God. So that small change can change everything. And you see this also in Andalusia, Spain, where you have Islamic philosophers like Ibn Arabi, for example, whose work also indicates a complete change into a different conception of the divine, in which the divine and the creatures are interconnected to such a level that they're the same thing. Therefore, departing from the traditional Abrahamic conception that there's no bridge that actually connects the divine to God. Now, I know that some Orthodox are going to say that's not true because we have the energies essence distinction, and I agree. In that conception, the energies of God and the creatures become connected. That would be their bridge. But Catholics, and therefore all the derivatives, all the branches that come out of Catholicism, do not believe that, because they believe in divine simplicity. Therefore, they believe that there's not really an actual bridge, that once you get close to God, the closest you're going to get is to see Him across a vast ocean of distinction, and you can have beatific vision, but you can never become integrated with God. You can never join God, as the, again, Eastern religions tend to advocate. So this book, although it's not very long, will give you a window into the cultural and intellectual milieu of the time of the Library of Baghdad, and will also present a notion of magic that today is usually assumed, but at the time was quite revolutionary. So hopefully this short video will motivate you to read the book, and remember to subscribe to the channel if you like the content. Click the bell for notifications, like the video, share the video, and comment on the video, and I will see you next time.